Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar Hoke here, solo edition on a Monday here. Important for the Soudal Open. It seems US Open qualifying is underway for the European Tour. A lot of the guys that myself and Tom and probably across the industry were interested in this week are actually off to a really hot start in US Open qualifying. So I think time is of the urgency for some of these prices. And that's why you get Solo Sky Edition of the DP World Tour. We can start by reviewing the last couple of events. Of course, this is the Monday morning after the PGA Championship. Scotty Scheffler wins his third major, complete dominance, right? I think the Saturday closing holes for him, the way he handled the Green Mile, 17 and 18 birdies, just set him up to be able to play par golf on Sunday. And although it got close, around the turn, I think Scotty, he openly talked about how he kind of found it on the 10th and 11th hole, and that propelled him to a strong back nine, doing what he needed while the chasers, John Rahm, some of the others that played well, Poston, Riley, Harris English, from the clouds playing like that on Sunday, just couldn't get to the numbers that needed. You probably needed to push 10, 11, 12 under to really make Scotty squirm. And I thought Quail Hollow was a proper test. I don't love going PGA Tour events straight, into a major like that. And I just love the uniqueness from a speculation game of venues that we don't get to see too often. It wasn't overly bomber dominant. I thought, quite a few of the shorter guys got out there on the leaderboard, which was pretty interesting. I think that's, something that the angle really wasn't in play too much from the odds, and some real long shots. Saw some awesome tickets and without Scheffler and Rory markets. Bryson and Neiman were the guys for me who ended up in the top 10, yet didn't close on the places or wins that I would need of them. So not a big profitable week from that standpoint on the outright selection. And this comes right off the heels of, I would say, a frustrating week at the Turkish Airlines Open. Frustrating meaning one of the few who left empty-handed after the event, after Martin Kuvra did win, his first ever DP World Tour event. Early 20s, showing how much ceiling he has. Should be on the PGA Tour, barring, a pretty decent rest of the season. He continues just to hit the board. He's a golfer that is quite volatile, and followed it up here, with a big finish the event prior. Number kind of why I felt an urgency to do it this week. By the time Tom and I got around to our show later on Monday, Kuvra's price was almost cut in half. Hundreds that many had down to 50s in spots overseas. Wasn't really an excuse, as there was probably still 70s to 90s available. And with a player who had been showing as much signs as he had, disappointed to not be on. I feel like we've classically hit those golfers, Tom and myself. So leaving empty-handed on his win, as he's just an amazing player. It seems to be, especially from the ball striking standpoint. Off the tee, he can separate, but his irons are phenomenal right now. Two things to note for me from the PGA Championship that I thought of, two players specifically. I love getting data from the major championships when we get players from across the globe in there. PGA Championship maybe isn't as much because there's not qualifying spots in there. So just a handful of DP World Tour guys got to play in it. Two guys that numbers stood out to me. Marco Penji. When we talk about him, and I continue to, I don't know the last name pronunciation. Penji. Marco hits the ball a mile. We've seen that from an off the tee game, but again, without laser data consistently on the DP World Tour, we just aren't getting like reliability. Is like this guy averaging 320 off the tee every single hole and hitting, field average accuracy. Because if that is the case, this guy could be like a one of the better talents that we've seen from the DP World Tour in the past few years. And that looks to be the case from the way he played. I think he finished T30, T32 last week at the PGA Championship. Just incredible ball speed. One, off the tee numbers were right there leading, among the bigger guys in the entire field. Distance competes with the Højgaards, with the Brysons. And there was two things. He played the par fours in 5 under par this past week. Now there was two drivable holes, right? 8 and 14. He cleaned up on those. I think he was probably close to like 8 under on those holes. A couple of chip ins that he had from them too, showing some around the green promise. So you have him leading the field in par fours, which you wouldn't chalk up, because even if you play those 8 under, playing the rest 3 over, winning score 12 under, the only one Scott or 10 under, Scotty wins by 4, right? I mean, you're setting yourself up there. You play, 5 under par on those par fours. What do you do on the par fives when you're the best golfer in the field from an off the tee standpoint? He played them 2 over, which was the worst of anybody who made the cut. Seeing that, incredibly disappointing. I was on him for top English golfer at 33 to 1. I thought there was a ton of life. Obviously, Fitz and Rye and Wallace played better than him. But to do that par four dominance, I think the long iron work is probably the question, then, right? If he's hitting it a mile on the par fives and not capitalizing on being 240, 220 out, but the around the green gameplay was good in spurts, a couple chip ins, showing some ceiling there. You play those par fives, I don't know, there's 3 of them. You should probably, three, capability of 12 under. Just say you play him 4 under. That's a 6 stroke difference. And it's a different week that we talk about from him. So I was incredibly bullish on the week that he had. Now he's coming back to play the Soudal Open at a tighter golf course, which I'm okay, passing on him here. It's a bummer that he doesn't get to play US Open qualifying because of the PGA Championship spot start. I would love if he came to America to get a spot and try to get into it. But man, bigger golf courses. He obviously just won for us not too long ago, too. He was a story of the DP World Tour guys. And then secondly, and this is a fringe DP World Tour player right now, but Daniel Van Tonder, when you get him in these fields, his ball striking is insane. Off the tee was so good. Approach was amazing. He had done the same thing at Kiowa, I believe it was, or one of the PGA Championships 4 or 5 years ago, where he was like, if you make any putt, in contention. Last week, he missed the cut by 3 strokes. He had, I believe it was 79 putts in 2 holes, 34 and 35 putts, I think it was, in his first 2 rounds, 5 3 putts. I think in one of the days, I think it was round 1, he had 5 3 putts. Like, clearly zero on the green play, but from a ball striking standpoint, his off the tee and approach numbers were electric, and he does that when he gets in these events. So man, I think a difficult test in the DP World Tour if he gets a spot start, or next year he's guaranteed to be in. He won twice on the Sunshine Tour or the co-sanctioned Hotel Planner Challenge Tour event. So I think that's 2 guys from the DP World Tour who play in the PGA Championship that I'm just keeping a lot of eyeballs out for. Bigger, stronger, like golf courses that maybe scoring isn't too deep. I think those guys can be incredible in there. Okay, flip the switch. Soudal Open. Hopefully you're enjoying the solo edition here. Please give us feedback. I know this isn't going to be something that we do quite frequently. Tom and I couldn't get together till next tomorrow, so I think this is why we're pushing it on the Monday early. But if we look at it right now, prices. So I guess if we even just talk the golf course as a whole. So Rinkton Golf Course, this golf course holds a special place in my heart, because this is the golf course of the former Belgian Knockout, which was my favorite event of the entire DP World Tour history. They used to have 2 rounds to get into a 64 golfer bracket, head-to-head 9-hole challenges to then go to the championship. 2 winners of this event that I had action winning on. Adrian Otegui, when he had won up here, Alperetta, who just was unbelievable that first year. And then Guido Migliozzi won the second edition of this, beating Darius Van Driel in the championship. I can remember that was the year of Guido, right? He had won the Magic Kenya Open, won for a second time at the Belgian Knockout. Courses like this, like those both are tighter courses where you cannot overpower with the driver. Some drivable par fours, though, if you want to let it rip. But I think this is more of a ball striker's paradise. Play from the fairway, play into the greens, and you have to score with your iron play. That was kind of the quintessential Guido model at the time, and that's what he was now doing, just delivering with irons. And then you see players like a Van Driel, even there Joe Dean was in the mix. I mean, if we go back historical Soudal Opens here last few years, I want to make sure I have everything correct. So in 2025, it was Nacho Elvira. 2024, Nacho Elvira. 2023, Simon Forstrom, and then 2022, Sam Horsfield. I think he had won back-to-back events right around then. Now Fox kind of was in contention once of those. But if you look at other golfers, Bjork, Southgate, Lorenzo Vera have contended historically in those. Peters, Norgard, who I thought at the time Norgard with these tighter tracks has shown a lot of life in there. But I think this is a golf course where you can honestly just really play from that fairway and then focus in on your iron play. And that's the golfers that we're really going with. At the odds board right now, Jordan Smith, 22-1, Peters, 22, Wallace, 22, Cantor. Now, prices aren't all widely available in the States yet, so that's why we're doing it earlier. Cantor, Haotong, Chikara, all sub 30-1 this week. Now, if I pull up live scores right now at the US Open qualifying for it, to get 8 spots available, Jordan Smith is leading by 3 strokes. So again, he's the odds-on favorite, and then he is leading at their. Now, Jordan Smith himself is probably not a golfer I like to bet when it comes to being the favorite. I think you get him in the US Open. I'm more interested in his number there. I mean, ball striking for him has been good. Second, seventh, last 2 times out on the DP World Tour. So definitely showing a lot of life, deserving of the price, and probably could be cut because of that. I think the question is Peters at the top of the board, right? Peters in his home country, getting him live, playing better from a ball striking standpoint, 4th in Korea, was really good through the bag outside of the putter. Trending for him 15th in Mexico prior to that. Really, really good off the tee. But I think the power in what he has doesn't really play to his favor at this course. Now, he is probably the most talented golfer in this field, I think you could say, pretty fairly. But I just think it's something where I would much rather be able to go down the board a little bit more. Now, the other golfers who played in the PGA Championship are now coming over. Matt Wallace, right? I think Wallace is probably second best career performance in a major. I think he did good at Bethpage. He's T3 at Bethpage. He ended up being last week T17, but he had withdrawn the CJ Cup. I think there was some injury question marks. He comes over and has contended and won big events, right, on the DP World Tour after not being in much of form. But I'm probably pretty okay passing. Haotong fought with Kuvra. Maybe his game's a little bit more now in his trusty. If he just goes irons off tee, you could play for it. I think Chikara was the one that I wanted to do at least some deserving deep dive into. Now, Chikara missed the cut, not really close at the PGA Championship. I didn't think the most of him this past week. I did not even close, +4, like not terrible from him. But what I was worried about really was the fact that I don't think he has that same distance that a lot of the golfers do that are kind of his genre, right? If you looked at his average distance off the tee this week, 306, I guess it's not terrible, and 301. If you kind of put him up 303.3, that's probably middle of the field where you get him a Penge type of thing, or the Højgaard's like way, way up there. I think Chikara is much more suited for this type of course. You get him at a price that's palatable, right? Coming over, I don't mind it. I'm not starting my card there. I'm actually not going to start my card probably to closer to 50-1. But I think talking through the guys at the top of the board, he's definitely worthy of the conversation. If I keep going down through here, I think Nakajima falls in that same category, right? Nakajima, for him, he played +5. Again, big ballpark. I don't think it was a course that he was ever going to really show himself at last week at Quail Hollow, even though fairways did play into his favor. I was okay not getting onto him. Matt Jordan at low prices is just not for me. Here's Luton. Been somebody who has been awesome, right? From just a pure ball striking standpoint, just every single week continues to deliver off the tee approach. 5th, miscut, 14th, 3rd, last 4 times out. Hero Indian Open was an event that was, tighter or worthy of having to play that type of golf. So, I think that was something for him that could have been at least interesting. But again, I just don't have a lot of faith in some of these golfers when it comes to their prices here. Now, the one that I'm intrigued at, if I'm going to be starting cards. Now, again, prices aren't all the way out, so I'm fact checking this. Looks like 55s are available at the moment. For my first bet of the week, and that is Jorge Campillo. Jorge Campillo is an oddball of a golfer, right? Campillo is somebody who didn't really take to playing on the PGA Tour last year, despite some of the tighter golf courses maybe making more sense for him. Then he comes back on the DP World Tour and kind of fits right in, does really well at the British Masters, does really well in Spain, right? For him, and then middling all year long pretty much until last time out the Turkish Airlines Open, where his irons were very much firing on all cylinders with laser data. So, 4 rounds in the 60s for him. You show up at Ringfin. I think he is the quintessential type of player who this course goes right into kind of the way he plays. Now, he won the from a 2-round standpoint, the first time out here, 67-67 back in 2018, 15th here at the Soudal Open. The next time it played, 4 strokes. Now, again, I say won at 2018. He was leading the stroke play, was the number 1 overall seed heading into that tournament. Now, missed the cut in 2023 due to the putter. I just think he's too good of a golfer for 55-1, personally. You can find that at FanDuel right now. That's the best price at the moment. Campillo, let me double check if he's playing. He's 1 under, or 3 under, excuse me, T29 US Open qualifying. His price probably isn't going to plunge unless he's popular this week. But I think he is somebody who definitely is worthy of getting on in this standpoint. Now, the next golfer in this range that I am absolutely betting is I'm betting Guido. I'm betting Guido, and I haven't bet him. Man, I haven't bet him in a long time, right? So Guido is somebody who, for those who haven't been listening to the show, my favorite golfer out there, right? And that was because of that iron play that he had shown when data was just getting available. And then you show up at a golf course like this where it really fits into your ball striking and you win after doing the same at the Magic Kenya Open. Like that gives me life. And Guido has had a tough year. He was good out of the gates, T31, T8 in Dubai, 4 straight missed cuts, T49 missed cut. Turkish Airlines Opens, T17 for him, Opens 68-68, 71-68. Now, off the tee game wasn't great. Irons were okay. Putter was really good. He's found himself some short game. Guido getting a comfortable course. Last year he won at the KLM Open, which that golf course, Joe Dean, Marcus Kinholt, Pavon, you kind of get some golfers that really didn't have that success off the tee competing there. So to me, I think Guido is close. I think he's really, really close to breaking back through. And then right now at the US Open qualifying, he is 6th. He opened 4 under through 4 in the second round. He just bogeyed the 8th hole, putting him fringe for this spot right now. He's going to have to play well on this back 9. He hooped one on the 4th hole, I believe. The 4th hole is 343, so he probably drove that hole and then made the eagle putt. So that's pretty good. And if I look at it here, let me double check. He's on that course. Yeah, so he probably did that specifically. So if we look at other guys in this range, and the one that stood out to Tom that he is very interested is Sam Bairstow. So Sam Bairstow has been a tough golfer for us to nail because it seems like his win is right here on the cusp, but the prices have definitely kind of crashed when he gets there. He was T10 last year at this event. Last 2 events, 6th and 7th. Really good off the tee with Turkish Airlines, really good putter. He had another stretch of the year when he went T16, T32, T10, T11, T9. So right there, last year was probably the breakout or one of the best players coming from the Challenge Tour. And then U.S. Open qualifying for Bairstow. Right now, he's T7th, 4 under through 9. Has a good chance to with a nice back 9 to make himself, a second year in a row playing in the U.S. Open. So those guys in the mid range were really standing out. I'm trying to look at anyone other. Daniel Hillier has shown some really good flashes with ball striking standpoint. Angelo Aora. Now, Aora if I pull those numbers back up on Aora, I would bet him coming off that Zurich Classic because his numbers looked really good there. Turkish Airlines, he just couldn't putt T61. He's got a chance for a spot here at the US Open too. If I look at it, who else is in the mix here? LaCroix, Jordan, another golfer we're going to bet here shortly, Dodo Molinari, Ryan Lumsden, Dean, Gumberg, Bairstow, Kroiwich, Lagergen, and then Aiken are the golfers who are all right now within contention. You get it. There's some T14s that aren't by any means out of the mix if they go hot on their back nine. But if I'm focusing on golfers right now, and that would be the ones. Now, excuse me if I sound a little stuffed up here. Don't get a little breather when you're running solo on the edition. If I keep going, next golfers that we're going to bet. Now, prices are probably going to go, and if I just lead right into it, it is Eduardo Molinari. Now, prices in the States for Eduardo, 90-1 with a sea of blue on odds checker. If you look at it, his prices it's going down, and we haven't quit. This is like the fifth time in a row I bet on Dodo. Let me look at this. He has played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I quit on one of those 5 events for him. He has finished T43 9th, T36 6th, T24, and he played pretty good out, like closing 68, 67 in the mids last time out, Turkish Airlines Open. Hasn't cashed us a top 5 in that range, but still getting good prices on him. And again, if he's qualifying for the US Open on Walton Heath, which golf course that plays more in his favor, Brinkman should be perfect. We just saw Luke Donald almost at the first round lead at Quail Hollow. Maybe there's some, Ryder Cup captain narrative going on here. He was T10 the Soudal Open back in 2022. I just think this is a perfect course for him playing so well. I get it. It's Dodo Molinari, 44 years old, but man, you look at the accuracy, look at the iron play. Like, it wasn't as great, the Airlines Open. He was really good off the tee. I just think Dodo is showing so much life right now that I'm not quitting him at 90-1 for those prices there. Other golfer that is kind of similar to him that, is catching my eye as we go through this, Kroiwich, like he had missed the cut of the Turkish Airline Open. He'd won Magic Kenya Open. I think Magic Kenya Open is a great comp for this course here, specifically the top 5 at that event. Kroiwich, Perry, Jermishes, Schaefer, Rutherford, DeLeo. Those are the top 5 that week at the Magic Kenya Open. And I think that's a great type of course if we look at some parallels to this week. For which, if he makes it, he shot an opening 66 in the U.S. Open qualifying, just another, kind of thing to add into the chamber for it. I probably won't be pulling the trigger there. I will be going into, if I'm looking at more prices here, where is... Okay, so I did skip over. Let me see his best price. Skov Olsen is right here, priced with Dodo Molinari. He is now available at 80-1. So we've talked, and I'm sorry, we've bet a lot of the same golfers. Like we have so far 2025. And I think sticking on a page at a golf course is going to fit into golfers in which that we feel really good about, just knowing their skill set, like matters to me. So like Skov Olsen is somebody who doesn't seem to have the power in which a lot of these younger golfers have. Younger 25 took him a little bit of time, but we get him here. Awesome ball striking with the laser data at Turkish Airlines. Good off a tee, gaining a bunch accuracy, not distance-wise. Awesome with the irons, T12. Miscut in Henan. Henan was that golf course that fit the Bombers. China, 8th. Joburg, 7th. Kenya Open, 13th. And then he had a Mauritius, T9. So you look at this. 5 top 13 finishes in his first basically 10 DP World Tour starts, and we're still getting 80-1. He's not going to make the US Open. That's okay. Again, I'm just kind of adding that to great playing well. If you're adding that, if you play poor, I'm not going to forget about you there. So I just think he's a golfer who clearly the sky is the limit from a standpoint. Was an awesome amateur. Won the amateur championship, made the cut at the US or the Open Championship last year, Danish Golf Championship on T5 after that. So he has 6 top 5s and basically 13, or top 13s and 13 DP World Tour starts. That's incredible for somebody who's 25 years old, just starting his professional journey. 80-1 feels awesome for him. So it's 4 selections for me. My 5th one is going to be way down the board. So maybe we talk through a few other golfers in which we find intrigue leading up there. Tom wanted to talk about. Let me make sure. Oh, Gregory DeLeo. I thought was an interesting offer that caught my eye too. So DeLeo, we just mentioned, to finish top five of the Magical Kenya Open, Turkish Airlines Open for him too. He was T24. His rounds of 67, 71, 69, 69. I believe that probably put him well within the mix for first round leader. Yeah, top T6 after the first round. The first round leaders at the Turkish Airlines Open were Kuvra, Robin Williams, Tiger Christensen. So, golfers that we look at that kind of showed some early life and then kind of fizzled out a little bit. Now, um, DeLeo definitely was somebody that we mentioned in Italian Opens historically this year for him. I mean, if you looked at off the tee, he was really good distance and accuracy there, putted well, just kind of fell apart a little bit late. Best finishes for him in his career. He's a three-time Alps Tour winner back in 2022, two-time amateur winner back in 2021. Had a decent amateur career. Best, pretty much challenged for, I guess, Italian Open. He was 10th last year when Marcel Siem had won at that course in that playoff over McKibben. So that's probably his best finish outside of that T5, the Magic Kenya Open. I think you look at the comps there. I think it's definitely something that there's intrigue on. DeLeo this week, price wise, 150, 200 to 1. Definitely worthy of digging into from his standpoint. Another one that caught my eye, I don't think he's playing US Open qualifying. Nope. Marcus Kinholt. So I like those stats where it's like birdies, but not capitalizing. T12 at the Turkish Airlines Open. It's still a good event, but again, when we saw some distance kind of factoring in, he was somebody that might have not benefited from that. He's one of the shorter hitters in the field, was really good. Irons okay, but short game was awesome. Was T15, the Volvo China Open 2 with a third round 64, which had to have been the round of the day that day. Let me double check. Yep, round of the day there. If we look at the best finishes from his career, T2 at the KLM Open, where Guido had won, he had lost in that playoff. If you look at Hero Dubai, was another course for him, was probably was bigger than it was Kazoo, Qatar, golf courses, and he won. What was it? Yeah, the Betfred British Masters. So the tighter, this was Hillside. So again, a tighter type of course. Nedbank is a golf course. Gary Player, which can challenge you a little bit there. I just think he fits these type of golf courses. We see 2 out of 3 finishes for him, T15, T12. Best finish of the year, I guess it was December, but T2 at the Alfred Dunhill, lost to Sean Norris there by a stroke. I just think there's some life when you look at Marcus Kinholt right now. Price-wise for him, 120, 150, not running to the window for that. Now, I think Robin Williams is starting to show some signs of being back. Robin Williams, I think at this golf course might struggle a little bit. 7th last time out with a really good putter. I just think he's more power built than this type of course, personally. But he is definitely showing some life. Let's do a couple more checks here. Oh, Elvis Smiley was one I wanted to talk. Elvis Smiley did play last week the PGA Championship, made the cut. He's off of a T15 and a T16 last 2 times out. China, first round, 67 for him. So if I looked at it, that would have put him third after the first round. After 2 rounds, Smiley was 8th. 3 rounds, he just kind of fallen back a little bit. Finishes T15 there. Scion Classic, again, something that's probably a little bit too big for him. 68-68. Halfway point for him there would have been second. Now he goes and plays the PGA Championship and finishes T72. I think this is his first ever major. Yeah, first ever major, finishes T72. And if we look at kind of live stats for him, Smiley, Sunday shot a 3 over. He just kind of lost on the weekend. It was 6 over on Saturday, was 2 over on Friday, which he was really good with the iron play. Two, actually hit it kind of long. I don't feel like he's a longer hitter. He averaged 314 off the tee. I mean, I guess maybe he is longer than I give him credit for. He's over field average, typically round one, average 310. He shot a one under score on round one. Um, that one under had him sitting, I believe, T23 after the first round, which again, Smiley in his first ever major championship. Is it a lot to go from there and then come back and win? Albert Smiley right now in the DP World Tour rankings is 19th, right? He had won the BMW Australia. He finished fifth in Australia the following week. Now we're looking at, back-to-back T15, T16. I don't know. I think he's a winner, right? He had won, didn't he win? What was it? Last year, yeah, in Australia, finally kind of gotten over that hump, had won, and then he wins again in November. He is somebody I definitely want to keep monitoring on. I'm going to do a quick Twitter search just to see if we see anything big on his recent play, or just a nice tweet from his mom about how well he played. I just think that was encouraging. Like, I think making a championship, it's making a cut in a major is really good. I think that's just a strong, start for him. So I think he's somebody I'm watching right now. I'm not on him. The last golfer that I'm going to be betting right now, Jordan Gumberg. Jordan Gumberg is available 350 to 1 right now. Gumberg stood out to me again because we get some laser data from him. So it's tough when a golfer who is very, very accurate, who doesn't gain distance, is doing awesome off the tee. Like, it's just a weird kind of thing to be able to see the legitimacy of some of that data. And that kind of came through again at the Turkish Airlines Open, where again, he's super accurate, gaining off the tee. He'd come out like decent. I think he shot 70, 71. Yeah, it was DFL of those guys who made the cut there, but that was fresh off the 16th at the Hainan Classic. He was 14th at the Singapore event. And then this morning in U.S. Open qualifying, oh, great, Guido back to 4 under, T2 for him. There we go. Gumberg stumbling a little bit. He went double, birdie, bogey just now. He's got 4 holes to close. He is T13. But again, showing some life at 350 to 1 is enough for me there. Winner last year, of course, in South Africa at the SEC Championship at a golf course that was a little bit, bigger-ish. I mean, I don't know. I thought that was Robin Williams contended, but, you have Rivetto, Donaldson, Armitage, some golfers that maybe aren't as overly dependent off the tee. He just can be a separator from an accuracy standpoint. I think that golf course plays so much. And when you show some life of this, Jordan Gumberg, 350 to 1 makes a ton of sense. I'm going to close it on that again. You'll see some content again from Tom. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Jacobs 93. You can follow me at Skyhook DFS. If there's any changes or things, I'll make sure to tweet it out because this show is solo and early on a Monday. So I wanted to make sure that we had this kind of in the chamber as prices could be altered quickly on U.S. Open qualifier. So again, to review my betting card, and we look at prices for us. So we're going to go best price that I can see right now. Jorge Campillo, 55 to 1. Guido Migliazzi, 55 to 1. Olesen, Jacob Skov Olesen, 80 to 1. Eduardo Molinari, 90 to 1. And then Jordan Gumberg, 350 to 1. Thank you all for listening. And again, if it's the audio version you're listening to, you can find us at Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. Rate, review, subscribe. It goes a super long way to support us at Mayo Media Network. We work really hard on this show and across the entire network. Pat has so many different opportunities to listen to content across a global amount of sports. So we really appreciate the love that you give us. Comment on YouTube, rate, review, subscribe. It matters the world to Tom and I and this team. So thank you all again, and we'll catch you this week. Good luck, everybody.